What the hell is networking? Hey, I'm Donnie Boivin, CEO and founder of Success Champions Networking. And today we're going to talk about what the heck is networking and how do we make it work for you. This ain't the business summit for perfection. It's for the messy builders, the loud learners, and the ones who break the rules and the mold. If you're ready to stop playing safe and start making noise, taking ground and building something real, you're in the right damn place. The 2025 Badass Business Summit. Networking without the bullshit. September 17th through the 19th in Fort Worth, Texas. Skip the small talk. These are raw tactical sessions where real relationships are built, strategies are swapped, and momentum is made. Not just another pile of business cards. Break shit and win ugly. Go to badassbusinesssummit.com. Register now and punch status quo in the face. Badass Business Summit. You weren't made to follow. You were built to disrupt. Hey, what's going on, guys? Man, let me tell you, my first year in business, I actually go all the way back. My first time ever networking was an absolute nightmare. Tried to do all sorts of things and it didn't work. And I think the biggest reason networking didn't work for me originally was because it was such a desperation move for me. I found networking because I didn't want to do traditional sales. I didn't want to do traditional cold calling or door knocking and the like. So I was looking for a different way to find business and to get business coming in. And as I was Google searching back in the day, I don't think anybody Google searches anymore, but as I was Google searching back in the day, what I found was this idea of networking where people, met on a regular basis or they were at events and the likes, and they did it as a mean to try and find business. And I decided to give it a go. So I went out and tried to network. And because I only looked at networking at the time as a means for me to find clients, every conversation, every interaction, everything was a move to try and gain business. It was pretty gnarly because I was constantly pitching my services, constantly trying to tell people, what I sold, and let me be honest, it didn't work at all because all I was doing was looking at everybody I talked to as a prospect. So I had to learn to completely change the game and start figuring out how to make networking actually work for me. So in my mind, networking is now really about building other people's businesses. Most of my career, I sold B2B, business to business, and into companies. And when you're selling into companies, the people that we're trying to sell to, they're never networking. So everything that I had learned about networking and was taught to me by people who were in these kind of transactional worlds. And when you sell to consumers, everybody you network with is a potential prospect. That's why people really struggle with trying to say who they want to sell to when they sell it to the public, because literally anybody can buy from them. So, but when I sold the companies, decision makers in larger companies were never going to be out and about networking. So I had to change the script because now I understood that the people that I needed to get to, they weren't at the networking meetings, they weren't at the lunches, they weren't at the after hours. So I had to come up with a concept that completely changed the way I networked. So first thing I did was change the definition of a referral. So a referral is an introduction with a sales call attached. And I think you have to separate that from introductions, because introductions are something you can do at any time, any moment. You can introduce two good people together and amazing things will actually happen. And you're hoping they find some sort of synergy. You hope they find some sort of ability to maybe do business together, work on clients together, do workshops together. A referral is an introduction with at least a sales discovery call attached. Separating these two out allowed me to understand that for me to get somebody to introduce me to somebody who wanted to buy my services, was a lot deeper interaction, was a lot more personal interaction. So that's where I set out to figure out, how do I actually get referrals coming in? And what I had to understand was, nobody was ever going to build my business for me. Nobody was ever going to just hand me clients or hand me business. I had to actually go find, ways for people to bring my name up. And so the idea of building other people's businesses was, this idea is, if I could provide so much value to the right people, they would bring my name up in the right situations. So I started to get very strategic. And what I find with most people as they're networking, referrals is kind of an act of desperation for most people. They're hoping that, if they just hang around long enough, somebody's going to refer them. And the truth of the matter is, unless you're proactively working towards getting referrals and you have a strategy to get them, literally you've got to understand, referrals aren't luck. They just don't, magically appear. You have to create them. So for me, what I had to understand is, you could put a math equation to how you get referrals. So I looked at things like, how many introductions would I have to give before I got an introduction? How many referrals would I have to give before I got a referral? How many times would I have to meet with people before they would bring my name up? And I was learning, the more I earned those introductions, the more I earned those referrals by opening the right doors for other people, literally people started bringing my name up on a more regular basis. And it became really cool to see that if I got to know someone well enough, that I could actually introduce them to the right people, I could refer them to the right people, my name got brought up in a heck of a lot more conversations. And so I worked towards building out this team of people who sold to my ideal clientele. And when their conversations led to what I was selling at the time, they would introduce me to their people. And it just really, really, really worked. So thinking through, networking being the idea of building other people's businesses, I then had to start looking at, what does that mean when I go to events? What does that mean when I go to networking after hours? How do I proactively grow other people's businesses? And for me, I basically started keeping, at first, a mental dossier on people of, who they were, what they sold, who was their ideal people to be talking to. And I would play this mental game of connect the dots with people. And I got really excited with the more introductions I could make. And I got to the point where I could sit across from almost anybody and make 5, 6, 7, 8 introductions for them, not always referrals, but, well, back in the old days when I was, selling commercial printing and I sold sales training, I was able to make a ton of referrals because I was always in the right conversations with people. Because to do sales training, you're going to be doing a ton of networking to bring in a lot of business. So I was getting in a ton of conversations, and I found one of the easiest ways to make introductions and referrals is, every time I brought on a new client, or every time a client said, what we were doing for them was awesome and amazing, I would immediately say, well, what other things are you looking for? What other services are you looking for your business? And they would often tell me, X, Y, Z, and things they were looking for. I was then able to bring in my network and say, well, I have somebody who does that. I have somebody that can fix this. Somebody can do that. And I became a salesperson for my best network. I was proactively trying to find people that I could introduce them to give them more at bats, more opportunities, because I would go out of my way to find out what else or what other services they were looking for. And it got really, thank you, Arlen, I appreciate that. It got really exciting to uh, open these doors for other people, and it became kind of this game for me. I was, really finding that the more I could help other people, the more people wanted to help me in return. And so I learned that by how I approached the room, how I interacted with people, is how people responded to me. So there's kind of four major things that I had to stop doing to be able to make this happen. The first thing I had to do was I had to stop trying to sell the room. Anywhere you go, every event you go, quit trying to sell the room. Understand who they are, who they need to meet, who they need to be surrounded by, who they need to be introduced to, and watch what happens to your interactions and the doors that get open for you. The second thing I had to do was I had to get very laser focused on who the specific referral partners they needed to meet, right? Or the referrals partners I needed to meet. So I took my clients at the time and I started breaking down what other services did they buy that were not my service or didn't compete with me. And then I started looking at the rooms and the events and the places I go network, and I would start looking for those people. And the more I found the people that were adjacent to me in the networking got more easy because I could go to an event, I could go to a room and say whatever I was selling at the time, what was commercial printing or sales training. I could say, hey, I sell commercial printing. And I'd love to meet anybody who sold, marketing. Good morning, Jeffrey. How are you, brother? The more I could sell graphic designs, the more I could sell other things that were, adjacent to me. It was really cool to watch these doors get opened up. So the next thing I had to understand was, or number three is I had to be very proactive in opening doors for others. So I had to learn all about them to be able to get the right doors open for them and get them to the right opportunities. And then the fourth thing I had to learn to do was stay very, very, very consistent. I can tell you over the years, consistency has won more often than not for me. Showing up in the right places, being in the right rooms, and constantly working towards growing the business and meeting the right people has been huge for me. So, what I want you to start thinking about is how do you start playing offense in networking? Meaning, how do you proactively start looking at your network as these are the people that I need to get to because I can open doors for them. And if I help enough people by opening the right doors, my name will get brought up in the right opportunities. So I started looking at different events, and I would start measuring what's the ROI from this room, the return on investment. What were the opportunities I was getting from this room? What were the opportunities I was giving in this room? And I really started valuing my time. So networking became a math equation, it became a strategy, and it became an offensive weapon in my overall arsenal. And the more I did it, the more I built my personal brand in the marketplace, the hell of a lot more opportunities I got. People were bringing my name up in the right places, and it worked really damn well. So what I want you to think about is how do you make networking an overall growth engine for you? So I think it's a three-prong approach, okay? Right? You've got to have networking where you're doing your in-person, your virtual, and the likes. You've got to have your strategic plans going where you're reaching out to your best networking and referral partners. You need to be building your personal brand by getting on stages, doing workshops, putting yourself out there. And you've got to make a lot of noise in the marketplace because the more people who see the value in what you give them, the more people that you are able to help and serve, the more opportunities, the more that word of mouth, marketing actually starts working for you. So you play offense, have fun with this, and quit sitting around hoping that the right door is going to be open for you. Build the plan that gets you there. Math equation. How many introductions do I give before I get an introduction? How many referrals do I give before I get a referral? How many virtual coffees or in-person coffees or meetings do I have before I get an opportunity opened up for me? Right. And the math equation is always going to be the leading indicators. The more you do for others, the more that's going to happen for you. And the more you have this laid out and understand that you have to hit these numbers each week. Like if it takes 10 introductions before you get an introduction each week, you've got to give 10 introductions. If it takes 20, 30 referrals before you get a referral, then each week you've got to go try and give 20, 30 referrals. If it takes, 5 virtual coffees before you get an opportunity, then each week you have to hit 5 virtual coffees. Um, Thanks, Arlen. Consistency is beast, right? The more intentional you are about all this, the more that you're gonna, see a lot more opportunities happen for you because of how much you pour into others. And when you get consistent with all of this, when you break this down into a math equation, each week you know specifically what you have to do to make this work for your business. Most people are drinking hopium. They're hoping that, by just being somewhere, something's going to happen for them. They are not proactively trying to grow and build their business, right? This is where the magic happens for everybody. And this is how you really get your business dialed in. So, my challenge for you this week is to set a goal for how many introductions you're going to give. Set a goal for how many referrals you want to give. Set a goal for how many virtual coffees you want to do or in-person coffees you want to do. Set a goal and then meet that goal. Set introductions high, set referrals low. Because, if you understand the difference between an introduction and a referral, it's a lot harder to give a referral than it is an introduction, right? Set, in my opinion, a minimum of 5 virtual coffees or in-person coffees a week is a must for your business. If you're just starting out, I want you to triple that number because it takes a lot of reps to be able to get this thing moving. And you can just use a simple Excel spreadsheet to track all this and watch how it actually interacts and works in your business. So set a number of introductions, set a number of referrals, set a number of virtual coffees, and let's get it done. If you really want to understand how to go from networking where you're just hanging out with people and hoping something happens to an actual strategy that's business development that brings you clients, that grows your business, then you got to start playing offense. And offense requires you to show up in the right rooms, make the right introductions, make referrals, and make the flywheel work so it starts working in your favor. So I'm going to be here every Monday at 8 a.m. Central, working on helping you get your networking game right. If you haven't had the opportunity to go visit one of our networking groups, please go to successchampionnetworking.com and visit one of our chapters, especially if you sell B2B. You'll be blown away by how fast we open doors for others, how fast we make introductions, and how fast it will grow your business. So thanks for hanging out with me this week. Go have an amazing, awesome week. Kick some ass this week and have some fun. Love you, mean it. See you. Bye.